Well, we are live. We're live. This is one of those occasions that, when we talk to you about, hey, make sure you click that notification button, make sure you click that subscription button. If you're on LinkedIn, take your tie off. If you're on Twitter, stop your twitting for a minute. What we're trying to do is give you the opportunity to be notified if we go live, and if we do it kind of unannounced, like now. That's what we're doing right now. We are live and we are unannounced. So we're hoping that wherever you are, you're being notified and you're getting in the room. Everything going all right in there?
Going good in here?
Okay. All right. Mandy, everything good out there? Okay, good. You? Everything good? All right, good. Good. All right. Here, let me tell you what we're going to be talking about. I'm actually going to read from a couple of these books. And I'm going to do a little bit from the little things, because you wouldn't want to do a big portion from the little things. Just do a little bit from the little things. And then we'll do some from the Traveler's Gift. And, what we're talking about around the office today, besides the new cat, I can't believe we have a cat. Hey, Caleb, how are you doing? Renee, how are you doing? So you just got notified. Gary, how are you doing, buddy? What we've been talking about today, Judy, other than the cat, is that we have one of the life skills project that is about to close. So there's a few more seats in it, but it is going to close like tonight, like at midnight or something? Or do we just arbitrarily pick a time like 11:48 in Arizona, like Kenny Mann?
Yeah, it'll be tonight, because Tammy's class will be starting tomorrow, so we gotta send out the emails, send out the PDF.
The life skills project for the little things is closing tonight, and the project starts tomorrow. It's an 8-week experience, and it's one meeting every week live with Tammy, and she is our director of communications here at Wisdom Harbor. And this is going to be awesome. And so I just thought, if you're not familiar with this book, this is a book. Cindy, how are you doing? Cindy Ziegler Oates is on here. I just saw her just like a week ago. I just saw her with Tom and Julie and all the kids. And anyway, I'm glad you're here. And I'm going to read to you, Cindy. So, Kevin Williams' class just started, this is last night. And that one sold out. And hey, Marcy, how are you doing? So we're talking about, I'm gonna read to you from two different books. I'm gonna read to you a little bit from The Little Things and a little bit from The Traveler's Gift. And Marcy Taylor, Lil M is keeping the cat. Unfortunately, the cat is like, come in here, It's a studio cat, evidently. And so we're thinking about, can I tell them what we're thinking about naming it and see what everybody thinks? Sure. Okay. For a while there, it was between Raven and Millie. Now, which one of those sounds better to you? A black cat, Raven, or Millie? But we've also now thought of Scout. And I think we're liking Scout. All right. Anyway, so Tammy's class starts tomorrow, or her experience, the Life Skills Project. And this is a live thing that goes 8 weeks, and it's once a week for about 75 minutes, and it's going through the Little Things book together. Tammy's our director of communications, and there's a few more seats left, okay? And it's just a small class. It's a small group, and it's all live on Zoom. But I picked a place to read for you, and I thought I'd read the first of the chapter and then the kind of 1, 2, 3 of the chapter. This is chapter 3. And, the premise of the little things, why you really should sweat the small stuff. A lot of book clubs do this book already, and a lot of business people use this book. Schools are using this book because it kind of goes against, I guess, like traditional wisdom, which traditional wisdom is rarely, it seems like rarely wise. And, I don't know what's traditional about it, but I guess because everybody thinks something. But, the idea is that most people think, don't sweat the small stuff, right? And to me, that's just like backward anyway, because if you don't sweat the small stuff, you're not going to ever have any of the big stuff, because all the big stuff, whatever you're doing with your life, whatever your life is going to turn out to be, a masterpiece or a disaster, either way, it will have been created one tiny brushstroke at a time, 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time. And so this is the little things, why you really should sweat the small stuff. I'm going to read a little bit from chapter 3. And so each chapter is, it's a little thing like so-and-so, a little thing like this. And so chapter 3 is a little thing like taking offense. And so here we go with the first of it. Not too long ago, the Canyon School District in Salt Lake City, Utah, built a brand new high school. By mailed ballots, the Board of Education allowed the future students of Corner Canyon High School in the town of Draper to vote and choose the new school's mascot. By an overwhelming margin, the students enthusiastically chose Cougar. The students agreed that, even in a cheer, nothing sounded better than, "We are the Cougars, the Corner Canyon Cougars." So to most, the mascot was not a shocking choice. The cougar has been embraced as a mascot in Utah for quite some time. Brigham Young University in Provo, the 4th largest employer in the state, selected the cougar as its mascot in 1924, and ever since, the BYU Cougars have been a source of pride. Their academic and philosophical influence is worldwide. Their athletic programs are among the elite, having won 10 national championships in 5 different sports. This includes a football national championship in 1984. And another reason the mascot choice seems so appropriate, actual cougars live in actual canyons in Utah. In fact, there's a 10,409-acre tract of uninhabited backcountry protected by the Bureau of Land Management, and its official name is the Cougar Canyon Wilderness. So together, all the facts seem to present an impressive argument for choosing the cougar as a mascot for the new school. But none of that mattered to the Canyon's Board of Education. After receiving several calls from presumably horrified people, the superintendent announced the board's refusal to name the cougar as its mascot. Why? Because, he explained, the word has a derogatory connotation and might be offensive to older women. Really? Wow. More and more these days, the tail is wagging the dog. One person who claims to have been greatly offended is immediately afforded a media platform that is simply unavailable to hundreds of people who are apparently too boring to offer us anything more than common sense. Even a consensus of leaders who've proven their common sense and value over time are no longer allowed to make decisions without threats and demands from those who claim offense and those who claim they might one day be offended. We hear the loud demands of those who yell, "What I believe is just as valid as anything you or anyone else believes. I will not be marginalized." Many of these people, often simply because they obstruct traffic or interrupt a meeting or pitch a tent in the doorway of someone's business, are invited to share their beliefs on television. Even more incredibly, their behavior often leads to funding by government programs. It's interesting to note how consistently they are treated with tolerance by the very people whose lives they're disrupting. Perhaps most unsettling of all, however, at least to responsible parents, is an awareness of a dangerous irony awakening in the minds of our children and teenagers. As young people watch adults on television being financially rewarded and becoming famous because of their behavior, our children cannot help but reflect that if they acted that way, they would be punished. Sadly, it is the wise voices among us who are being marginalized. By our silence, we allow those voices to be shouted down by people who rule their own lives, and increasingly our lives as well, according to the ebb and flow of their emotional tides. Okay, I'm going to move ahead just a little bit. There's a little more there. Talking about angry people. And that being a societal problem, because angry people do not make great employees. Angry people do not make great employers either. Angry parents raise angry children. Angry teachers do not inspire or encourage. Angry doctors make mistakes. Angry law enforcement personnel go overboard. Angry teammates attract penalties the whole team must bear. The uncomfortable truth is this: angry segments of society, no matter how great their numbers, always collapse, crushing the innocent along with the guilty under the weight of their anger. Okay, I've got 3 points on this. I'm going to skip to these 3 points. 1, in the scheme of life itself, things don't get much smaller than an offense. We can choose to be offended. We can choose not to be offended. It really is that simple. Not necessarily easy, but simple. And always a choice that is completely within our control. We can choose to be upset, hold a grudge, squander time, waste energy, repel opportunity, stagnate professionally, and ruin lifelong relationships because of that choice. Or we can choose to grow up, laugh, shrug, forget it, and move on. We can choose not to allow the choices and actions of someone else to dictate our own choices and actions. All right, here's number 2. When a person says what I believe is just as valid as anything you or anyone else believes, recognize that statement for what it is. A declaration that is not only childish and untrue, but also easily refuted. Mature people understand that while they are entitled to their own opinions, they are not entitled to their own facts. While it is true that you are free to believe anything you wish, the rest of us should not be expected, and certainly not compelled, to recognize, respect, or fund foolishness just because you believe it. You can believe that trees have feelings. If you choose, you can believe they dance together or talk to one another, and you may believe it all sincerely. In reality, however, that only makes you sincerely wrong. That said, please understand that if you want to believe that trees talk to one another, fine. Most of us don't care. However, if you assert that because of your belief, I can't cut down a tree in my own yard, then we have a problem. Furthermore, if you manage to convince 10% of the world's population that trees talk to one another, and now, because your group believes it, the rest of us cannot use our own property as we wish, or everyone is required to pay an additional tax on wooden furniture, or lumber companies are prohibited from harvesting timber without your permission, I'm sure you can see where this kind of thinking can lead a nation of people. Then again, just to cover the slightest possibility that you don't get why this is such a big deal, allow me to grab my sledgehammer and pound this one all the way home. The majority of Americans never even consider threatening anyone, blocking traffic, or disrupting meetings to get their way. The majority are reasonable people. A hallmark of reasonable people is that they tend to assume that most everyone else is reasonable too, even the tree talkers. Consequently, because the majority of Americans are reasonable, and because they assume that the responses and behaviors of everyone else will be reasonable too, they are very tolerant. Patiently, they project their own expectations of rational behavior and measured responses onto the tree talkers and the misguided or deceived people just like them. And so, with the reasonable majority, by behaving kindly and tolerating lunacy, unconsciously create a cultural acceptance of a very dangerous fiction, that the emotional beliefs of tree talkers are equal in value to society and to the future of our country as the principled beliefs of the reasonable majority. This is an oversight with devastating consequences, for there is no comparative value in the two beliefs. In this case, an accommodating tolerance from otherwise reasonable people resulted in a collective decision to do nothing that had no basis in reality. None. Tragically, this is how a majority of otherwise rational and productive people inadvertently yield their leadership to a small group they quietly believe to be idiots, subsequently enabling the idiots to steer everyone into a ditch. As a postscript to this scenario, don't overlook the fact that the otherwise rational and productive majority are now the ones ultimately to blame for all the damage. Why? Because the majority actually allowed an incredibly intolerant group of people to bully and manipulate them into tolerating decisions and behavior that they already knew were wrong. And here's 3. An offense taken produces a feeling. Only a feeling, a moment of emotional confusion. Throughout the course of your life, nothing will prove to be less important. Always remember that you've been created with a will that is stronger than your emotions. You can choose how you act despite how you feel. If you're paying the slightest bit of attention, it's clear we live in a world increasingly obsessed with how people feel. Corporations change policy affecting 50,000 employees because of how 17 of them feel. In a country that was founded in part because of a belief in the freedom to worship as one pleases, the freedom to worship as one pleases has been curtailed to protect the feelings of those who might be offended by seeing someone else worship as they please. Language is carefully policed. A joke can get you fired, and it's becoming increasingly possible to get arrested and not know exactly what you did wrong, or not agree that you did anything wrong. When you consider the whole attention to feelings issue, do you want to know the worst part of it all? Do you want to know the big, offensive-sounding secret no one wants to stand up and say out loud? It's a lie. Yep. Our whole societal focus on feelings as life's most important factor is a dangerous lie. It's a lie that has already greatly damaged the prospects of a generation and threatens to destroy the fabric of our nation. You see, other than our family or closest friends, and despite laws and regulations designed to protect our feelings, no one really cares how we feel. They may swear they care. They may have even convinced themselves that they do, but they don't. The bottom line truth is this: they only care how we act. This is the way the world has always worked, and the way it will continue to work. Don't be discouraged. If you ever believed otherwise, you're about to understand the truth in a way you might never have. You're about to be empowered to create the life of your choosing in a way that will never be possible for those who don't figure this out. It's not complicated, it's just a fact. Consider our human system of relationships or our nation's economy. Neither one functions positively or negatively according to how anyone feels. Quite the opposite is true. Both the economy and relationships are moved only by how we act, what we do. Again, this shouldn't come as a surprise. Your life has always worked this way. From the time you were a child, not one significant good thing in your life ever happened because of how you felt. All the increases you enjoyed were dividends paid according to how you chose to act. Think about it. Every boy or girl who liked you, every teacher who gave you the benefit of the doubt, every coach who said, "Congratulations, you made the team." None of these had anything to do with how you felt. When you became a teenager, did you ever start a game because your teammates thought it would make you feel good? Did your parents loosen up on the family's rules because you felt bad when you were disciplined? In high school, were you given A's because your teachers knew that C's made you sad? Then you grew up. Has anything changed? No. To this day, have you ever had a prospective employer stop your interview and ask, "If I give you the job, how are you going to feel?" Of course not. Your acceptance, your opportunities, and your finances are all part of a sliding scale that yields increase or decline according to your body of work, what you do, how you act. The bottom line is this: when it comes to whether or not you are offended, you're in total control. You can choose to take offense or you can choose to take action. You can be offended or you can be cheerful. You can examine your feelings or you can examine the results of how you've treated people, who you have become, and what has been accomplished in the process. An offense taken is such a little thing, but when hoarded and fed, an offense is a lot like an actual atomic bomb. The damage it causes, immediately and over time, is far, far greater than its initial size would lead you to believe. So this is just a little piece of the little things. And so that life skills project is closing this evening, and the project starts tomorrow with Tammy Nance. 8 weeks, one time a week for 75 minutes, and it's a discussion. And so it's a discussion. You'll read it off the camera and then come to the discussion and talk about it with Tammy and your group. So click that link in the chat box or go to andyandrews.com/skills and click on Tammy's class. Okay, that one's closing really soon. And the other one that's closing that still has a few seats left in it, and that one's closing. When is that closing? That's closing
It'll close on Sunday.
It closes Sunday. So still has a few in it, and that is the Life Skills Project on the Traveler's Gift, 8 weeks. And Dan Stone is coaching that class, and Dan he's literally one of the top 3 communicators I've ever been around. And so, and I'm assuming that you know the story of the Traveler's Gift. If you don't, here's the overview, and then I'll read you just a little bit. This is a story about a family going through a tough time. And the dad gets to travel through time, meeting with 7 historical figures that each of them are going through a bad time. And when he travels through time to visit them, each of them gives him a written decision, a written principle that if he puts it in his life, things will change. So that's the story of the Traveler's Gift. And so this guy gets to to be with Anne Frank in the annex and to talk with her and ask her questions. He gets to be with Lincoln at Gettysburg, and he gets to be with King Solomon right after Solomon says, "Bring me the sword, and I'll tell you whose baby this is." And so with 7 historical figures, well, one of the figures I will go and tell you is because he lands in a place that he doesn't know where he is, and it doesn't look like reality. It's a massive warehouse that has the aisles seem to go on forever. They seem to go up forever, and there's all kind of weird, just normal things in it. You know, there's like coats and shoes and wheelchairs and baseball bats and just, you know, all kind of stuff. And I won't tell you what's happening there, but the character in that particular section is the Archangel Gabriel. And so each of these, you know, David Ponder is the character, the main character in the book. And so each of these characters are having conversations with David Ponder. And so this is part of a conversation between David Ponder and the Archangel Gabriel. Gabriel has just revealed something about David Ponder's life to him that kind of gave him a gut punch. And he's told him that the opportunity is missed, that there are no second chances. Almost immediately, David's right hand felt for the ground. With his knees buckling, he lowered himself quickly to the floor. He didn't trust himself to stand, and so he just sat there at Gabriel's feet. He didn't scream or cry. He was past tears. He felt purged of energy, barely able even to breathe. For what seemed like an hour, David sat, trying to gather his senses. Gabriel stood motionless the entire time. Finally, David looked up and asked in a weak voice, "What am I supposed to learn here?" Gabriel smiled and sat down beside David on the floor. "You must know," he said, "that in the game of life, nothing is less important than the score at halftime. The tragedy of life is not that a person loses, but that that person almost wins." David shook his head slowly. "Why do we quit? Why do I quit? Why do I ease off? Why do I detour everything in my life?" Gabriel responded instantly. "As a human, you detour and ease off because you lack understanding. You quit because you lack faith." Understanding about what? For one thing, you do not understand that constant detours do not bring a person to greatness. Detours do not build muscle. Detours do not provide life's lessons. Between you and anything significant will be giants in your path. Easing off does not make the going easier. Neither does it guide one to the desired destination. Most men ease off when the going is rough. Most slow down when the road appears to be treacherous. There are times when you must feel the weight of your future on your shoulders, the throbbing, unstoppable strength of destiny coursing through your veins. Times of calamity and distress have always been producers of the greatest people. The hardest steel is produced from the hottest fire. The brightest star shreds the darkest night. For a while, David was silent. He seemed deep in thought. Then, as if having locked away the archangel's words, he said, "Gabriel, you also mentioned that I lacked faith." "I said those who quit lacked faith." I meant your race, the human race. With only a few exceptions, you lacked the faith that produces greatness." Gabriel sighed. It was not always so. Your civilization was once alive, vibrant, productive, and born in glory. Now look at you, a wandering, questioning pack of rebels teetering on the brink of dissolution. What? David said as if he could not believe his ears. We're living in the most advanced age our planet has ever seen. Gabriel shook his head sadly. You truly have no memory or cognitive knowledge of your history. Sometimes when I sit with our Father and watch the movements of your civilization as the time shifts, I am astounded at the arrogance I see displayed in your people. On several occasions, I have asked permission to teach you a lesson, but so far, his patience has greatly exceeded my own. It amuses me that you would think your civilization so advanced. There once existed a culture on Earth so highly evolved as to make you look like dull children. Their mathematics, metallurgy, engineering, and architecture were far beyond what you revere today. These were people of great understanding, great wisdom, and an even greater faith. Why have we never heard of these people? David asked doubtfully. Because your scientists work within a parameter of time that is far too narrow, Gabriel said. A few of them, however, have begun to suspect that this society predated the Aztecs and Incas by more than 30,000 of your years. What evidence is there of that? Gabriel chuckled. Not much for you at this point. To be frank, you are too far removed from those people in terms of capacity and time. Your civilization is just now arriving at the point of recognizing the scant clues still left of their existence. What clues? Gabriel paused for a moment, then said, the engineering of the Quenquan temples, still standing in what you call South America, use stones that are rectangular in shape and weigh more than 100 tons each. The builders of Baalbek in Lebanon laid cornerstones as tall as your 5-story buildings. They weigh more than 600 tons apiece. In both places, and many more I might add, the andesite blocks were quarried and set together so perfectly that grout was never considered necessary. Just to cut stone to the same specifications, your engineers today require diamond-tipped, laser-guided quarry saws, and still they can't duplicate the dimensions. Do you remember the Abu Simbel statues in Egypt? They are 120 feet high, 140 feet wide, and weigh 33 tons. When an international task force of your civilization's finest engineers was assembled to save them before the completion of the Aswan High Dam, they decided the only possible way to move the statues was to cut them into smaller sections and reassemble them on higher ground. Yet the original builders quarried the rock from a source miles away and moved it in one piece. Their knowledge of astronomy also far exceeded your current levels. They knew that the celestial dome was fixed, that your sun, moon, and planets rotate. They knew the exact circumference of the earth and charted it into systems of measure around the world. Your mathematicians and engineers have now seen this in surviving buildings in South America and Europe because they incorporated the figures into their architecture, and these equations were calculated perfectly. You were able to obtain these exact mathematical values only after Sputnik circled the Earth in 1957. Truth needs no evidence, of course, Gabriel smiled, but since you were curious, that should give you something to consider. So that's just part of the conversation between Gabriel and David Ponder. And the Traveler's Gift class, that discussion group closes Sunday. And that one is is led by Dan Stone. So there are 2 more life skills projects available, and they're on andyandrews.com/skills, and or you can click on the link on the chat box, right? And so, but 2 of them left, and with a few spaces in each. And so these are small groups where we have the little things, and that's going to be an awesome discussion with Tammy Nance and you guys. And that closes tonight and starts tomorrow night. And then the Traveler's Gift discussion closes Sunday, and I think starts Tuesday?
It starts on Monday.
Starts on Monday. Okay, starts on Monday, and that's with Dan Stone. So I hope you enjoyed being notified, just kind of out of the blue here. And I certainly enjoyed talking with you guys. Lisa Eubanks, Truth Needs No Evidence. Yep. Thank you for joining us. Mandy, we okay to leave? Okay. All right. We'll see you guys. Hey, let me tell you this real quick. Tomorrow on the Blue Plate Special, we have 2 guests. We have Lisa Robertson and Miss K of the Duck Dynasty bunch. So Miss K and Lisa will be here for the Blue Plate Special, and we're going to talk to them, find out all the secrets about Psi. All right. See you soon. Bye-bye.